Well, hello everybody. My name is Roger and welcome to my channel, Rogers Reads. And this is part 2 of my March wrap-up, the books that I've read during the month of March. So the first book that I want to talk about is called The Olympian Challenger by Astrid Arditi. Now, I've always been a fan of Greek mythology and fiction. I really love the Percy Jackson series. So I was really quite excited to dive into this book. So the story revolves around a heroine, Hope Diaz, who, after plunging in a river to rescue a boy, wakes up and finds that she has been transported to Mount Olympus along with several other high school seniors. Actually, everybody was 17, I think. And they were all introduced to the 12 Olympian gods, along with several demigods, heroes, and mythical creatures. So the kids then all learn that they are descendants of the gods, and they're informed that they were brought to Mount Olympus in order to compete against each other, and that each of the contenders must face several trials and quests, with the winner becoming the new Olympian champion of the gods. Now, it was never Hope's intention to enter into any otherworldly competition. She only jumped into the water in order to save the boy. Now all she wants to do is return home and to take care of her mother, who has dementia. So Hope makes several unsuccessful attempts to escape Mount Olympus. Unfortunately, she eventually learns that all exits are sealed, and the only way she can return home is to win the challenge. So she ends up forming an alliance with a shadow god, a handsome shadow god, by the way, who manages to convince her to stay. She slowly learns that there's more at stake in winning this competition than simply a heroic title. So she begins to take the trials very seriously, and she gets all swept up in the quests, striving with everything that she has to win, all the while keeping in mind the huge reward at the end. The winner's most precious wish will be granted. Now, with this wish, Hope will be able to cure her mother of dementia. Now, this is a fast-paced story with plenty of action and suspense, which made me think of Percy Jackson getting sucked into the Hunger Games, especially once the quests became more and more dangerous. Now, the version that I read was an advanced reader copy, so as of this recording, it's not yet available. It'll be officially released on July 31st, 2018. So if this sounds like something you might enjoy, you may want to add it to your calendar. So the next book that I want to talk about is Eliza and Her Monsters, written by Francesca Zappia. So the book follows our main character, Eliza, a smart, geeky, somewhat socially awkward, and shy high school senior, who is the anonymous creator of a wildly popular webcomic called Monstrous Sea. Her online ego is Lady Constellation, and only Max and Emmy, a couple of online friends whom she's never met, know her true identity. So in this way, Eliza is basically living two separate lives. In her real life, she's more or less invisible and keeps her head down, whereas online, she is a star. So this new guy named Wallace moves into town, and lo and behold, he is a huge Monstrous Sea fan. And as Eliza and Wallace's relationship deepens and slowly gets more serious, Eliza becomes more and more conflicted about whether to tell him that she's the webcomic's creator. But she decides to keep it a secret. Well, as we learn from the blurb, Eliza gets outed, and the entire world, well, at least the Monstrous Sea world, now knows the identity of the infamous Lady Constellation, and in a flash, her world gets turned upside down. This is actually quite a big deal because Eliza is basically the equivalent of a Hollywood celebrity in the fandom world with millions of followers. I think there are at least 2 million followers, if I remember correctly. So the big reveal leads to some major fallouts in Eliza's life, such as a relationship blow-up, excessive anxiety, and the onset of her panic attacks. So this book was extremely well written and the characters meticulously developed with a unique and fresh story. This is one of those captivating books that you can easily read over and over again and discover something new every time. And I really recommend this book. I think I gave it 5 stars. So the next book I want to talk about is Batman, written by Marie Lu. So the story begins on young Bruce Wayne's high school graduation day, and Bruce has just come into his inheritance. We already see Bruce's desire to stop the crime and violence in the city early on as he intervenes in a police chase which lands him in hot water with Gotham City's finest. But it's only because of Bruce's intervention that police were able to apprehend a suspected murderer who's part of a gang called the Nightwalkers. And the Nightwalkers are suspected of several murders and thefts in Gotham City. So as a result of his meddling, Bruce is sentenced to community service at one of the worst places imaginable, Arkham Asylum, the home for the criminally insane, which houses the most dangerous criminals in Gotham. So there he encounters Madeline, the Nightwalker suspect, who was apprehended as a result of Bruce's interference. So the enigmatic Madeline refuses to speak to any of the authorities, but she strikes up a conversation with Bruce during his daily chores at the asylum. So the more that they talk, the more Bruce begins to feel a connection between the two of them. And she then starts feeding him little nuggets of information about the Nightwalkers, which Bruce ends up personally verifying. So given that Bruce is the only person that Madeline will talk to, the police enlist him to start working closely with them, and in order to gain additional information from Madeline and about the Nightwalkers. So in spite of Bruce's better judgment, he finds himself falling for Madeline, but as he becomes more deeply involved with the situation, he begins to suspect that she may not be as sincere as he initially thought, when he learns that some of what she's told him are blatant lies. It's also worth mentioning at this point that the Nightwalkers' modus operandi is to steal every bit of money from millionaires and billionaires' accounts and then murder them afterward. So, as a reader, we can't help but wonder whether Bruce Wayne is next on their list. So I really enjoyed this action-packed book and ended up giving it 4 stars. So the next book I want to talk about is All It Took Was One Look by T. Lanay. And this is an LGBT-themed paranormal romance. So the story is told from the point of view of 2 main characters, Aiden and Liam. So the book begins with Aiden, a gay 17-year-old who is only out to his family and his best friend Janine. So then his world crashes when his homophobic cousin Brent comes to stay with him and his family for several months. This nasty little bully not only physically abuses Aiden every chance he gets, but he also outs Aiden to the entire school, resulting even in more harassment from his classmates. Now, strangely enough, Liam, the popular quarterback of the high school football team, comes to Aiden's aid, and after that, they keep bumping into each other, literally. And every time they do, Aiden feels this jolt of electricity between them. So Aiden is like, what the hell? He cannot figure out why in the hell the straight football star, who so much as never even acknowledged his existence, would come to his aid. And what's up with his eyes that keep changing to glowing yellow? So we then learn from Liam's point of view that one day he happens to see Aiden walk by and boom, his entire world changed with just one look. So you see, Liam is a werewolf. At the moment Aiden walks by, Liam immediately knows that Aiden is his mate, which is the person or the one he is destined to spend his entire life with. Now the kicker here is that up to this point, Liam is straight, heterosexual, or at least he thought he was until he catches sight of Aiden. So Liam not only has to get Aiden interested in him romantically, but he also has to convince him to accept the fact that Liam is a werewolf, and thus begins their journey. Now, it's also worth mentioning at this point that Liam is the next in line to become alpha of the pack and fears how his family and pack members will react once they learn that his mate is a male, which up to this point has been pretty much unheard of. There are also additional intrigues with the werewolf politics within the pack and rogue werewolves invading their territory trying to kill them. So this story really has it all. It has adventure, danger, suspense, action, romance, and it really sucked me in almost immediately. I really love a good shifter story, and this one definitely fit the bill. As this is getting kind of long, I think I'm going to break this up into 2 parts because I noticed my last video was 30 minutes. So I'm trying to keep these videos around 15 minutes or so. So I'm going to split this up and then part 2. So I'll have part 3 to my March wrap up. So on to part 3. Thanks.